Okay, welcome back to our platform game. Today we are going to fix up some of the issues regarding our player character with respect to where we want it drawn on screen and getting it to detect that it is standing on a platform, and that it can't walk through walls and platforms and things like that. So let's take a look at thinking about our way through this. So at the moment, you'll recall that, where's my game code? Here we go. We're just using the sprite XY variable, which is the pixel location of the top left corner of the sprite, which is not really very helpful from a computational point of view. We need to see what we're standing on, but we also need to see, are we going to collide into a platform like this? So let's think this through. Now, this would be easier if we kind of resize the sprite down so that it was only one block in size. But I quite like the visual effect of having the sprite be a bit larger like this. So I'm going to make it work for this, and I might regret it by the end of the video. We'll see how long this video goes. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, so I want to figure out what I'm standing on. What I'm going to do to kind of help visualize this better is I'm going to draw a rectangle overlay over my character for now, and we can remove this later on. So I might even turn this into a little function, draw debug sprite. Let's just put the entire sprite. What am I going to do here? All right, so let's put all the player drawing stuff into its own separate function. Okay, so image. So the picture itself is going to be just referred to as sprite for now. Okay, and then what I'm going to do. So basically here, all I did was just move that in. I've created a new function, a new command called drawSprite, which receives the image, right? The image that we want to draw, which is a sprite file, and the XY locations for it, and then calls the image function to actually draw it on screen. All right, and so down here we are providing, this is the sprite or the image I want you to draw, here's the X and here's the Y. But now it means I can add extra stuff into this and kind of keep it contained in its own spot. So let's just draw a rectangle. So I don't want to apply color fill on the rectangle because I want to see my image underneath it. But I'll make it nice and have nice thick lines. So let's give it a stroke weight of 4. Let's make the stroke color be red. That'll stand out. And then I need to draw a rectangle. And if we check our reference documentation for the rectangle command, we'll see that we need the X and the Y and the width and the height in pixels. Okay. So X, Y, width, height. So I know the X and Y location because that's those things. And then the width and the height, I can actually get that from the image. I'm pretty sure images have a width and a height property. Let's just test it. Yeah, okay, so there's my red rectangle around my character. Right. So I could actually just use that rectangle to test if I'm colliding with stuff. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because we can draw hotspots over everything else if we wanted to. Okay, so let's try to fix this thing, in terms of this issue, in terms of walking into walls. Okay, so set up, draw. Okay, so moving left and right. I was wondering why the mouse was moving so fast, because I've still got 10s there. That should just be 1s. That's better. Alright, the mouse was kind of like flying across the screen. Okay, I'm going to put all these into functions as well, because what we're going to need to put in a whole bunch of checks to make sure, can we move left, can we move up, can we move down, and then only apply the calculations if we can. And so rather than entering them once and then entering them again here in the mouse, I mean, later on we're probably not even going to use the keyboard. So I'm going to make here a function for move left. A function for move right. We don't exactly move up, do we? We jump up. And then we fall until we landed on something. So let's just make a function move jump. I like the idea of them all starting with the word move, but move jump doesn't make linguistic sense. Anyway, and we don't need a down function because we can't burrow through the ground. And if we're not standing on a platform, then we're going to have to move down automatically. We're going to have to be falling. So those are the three that we're going to need. All right, and so then here for moving left. All right, so right now I'll just copy, cut, and paste that code into there, and then replace this with move left. Replace this with move right. This is quite a frequent thing when you're programming, is, you know, you start going one way and then you decide you need to reorganize your code a little bit. Move jump. So that can go there. And we'll keep that there for now, but we'll be getting rid of it later on. So then this one here for the mouse, this can be replaced with move left and move right. See, if I had have done that before, then I wouldn't have had that bug with the mouse moving 10 at a time. All right, so save. Let's just pop back, make sure it still works. Excellent. Okay, yeah, and the down still works, but not for much longer. Okay, so what I want to make sure, I need to I can put in a whole bunch of checks because I should make sure that I'm not moving off the edge of my game world as well. But for now, let's just make sure I'm not colliding with something. So how can I go about doing that? All right, so what I need to do is I can't be working in pixels because P5JS doesn't have an easy way for me to be able to tell where I've drawn these things. The only way I know where I've drawn them is through that levels file that we've created. So what I need to do is I need to know which squares in this my player is occupying. So I actually need to convert, instead of just drawing the red square around my pixels, I actually need to figure it out in terms of which blocks I want to consider it residing in. So I'm going to change my sprite here. Let's just change that back to, keep this as block, go to block numbers now. And I think I said that that was probably going to change. And then down here where I'm drawing my sprite, where did that go? Here it is, draw sprite. Okay, so and I'm gonna work off from the bottom. So let's start by drawing one block off the centered at the bottom of my sprite. So this will be, so that's the block number. That's the pixel. All right, let's just convert these. Let's just convert these into simple variables before I start doing the math. Okay. So the X location of the grid Y location plus image height minus one set of pixels. And then, so I'm just going to draw one set of pixels. All right, yeah, so we're just going to draw one box. If I treat this XY as the plus the image width half minus the pixels block half of that. Let's see what that does. Huh. Well, the box is in the right location. The sprite's not. Oh, because I changed it to blocks. Okay, so that just needs to be maybe the image is the one I should just treat the rectangle as my player, and then I'd do the fancy math on the sprite. That's what I'm going to do. So then that can just become that. Syntax error. Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not going to work, but yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move the image so that that rectangle is at the centered on the bottom of it. So I just need to minus the sprite height, and then add back one pixel set a block. Oh, image height. Okay, so the block is at the bottom of its feet, and now I just need to center it in between the 2 feet. And that's where I need to do the halves. So half the width and add back half the pixels. What does that do? There we go. Now, given the size of my character, I probably want that to be a couple of blocks high, actually, don't I? Maybe 3. And then here I need to times that by 3. All right. So I'm going to use that rectangle as my hotspot. I'm going to use that to detect if I'm colliding against walls, coins, if I'm standing on the floor. So it'll mean a little bit of the edge of the sprite can kind of be standing over the edge of a cliff, and that'll be okay. But if that center part tries to go over a cliff, then it's going to fall. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we need to use... That's the rectangle that we need to use for detecting collisions. So, yeah, detecting collisions can be a bit tricky. So let's put that into its own function as well. And I'm going to call it isCollision. And so yeah, we'll receive these 3 things in. And then we need to also receive in the image and the X and Y location of whatever grid we're wanting to check the collision with. Is that what we want to do? Okay, so let's get our player to fall to the ground and use that to figure out how we're going to do all the rest of the collisions. All right, so we need to fall, and basically, so we've got these three squares, these three coordinates. If the one below it, so if this is the x and y that our player is at, plus 1y, plus 2y, plus 3y. So if plus 3y is ground, then we are standing on ground. And otherwise, we need to fall. I hope that makes sense. So let's put that into here. Okay, so are we falling? All right, and so what we're wanting to test is if okay, so the fall test x and y location. The fall test x will just be whatever our sprite x is. And the full test y should be our sprite's y location. Plus 4. Plus the offset for the part of the screen that we're looking at. Got to remember to keep those in check as well. All right, so we want to look up that inside our level, inside our level map. And so if that is a piece of floor, then we are not falling. So if the level at that y location and that x location is not, so exclamation equals means not equals to. If that's not a piece of floor, then we are falling. And so if we are falling, we want to increase the screen offset by 1. Let's see what that does. Oh, and it just did it. Let's refresh. But it's stopping 1 early, so it's not plus 4. Well, there we go, fall off the edge. So it's not plus 4, it's plus 3. Yay! I have no way of jumping over this gap here, so it's just going to fall until it crashes. I should be able to jump over it. If I hold the up key, it stops me from falling. But as soon as I let go of it, yeah, okay. All right. So anyway, let's do it. Let's do the sideways tests. All right. So if I want to move to the left, I need to check that I can move to the left before I... Let's do right. Right is easier because of where I start in the game. So I need to test it before I move into that square. So if the... All right, so let's just do let test x. That's going to be the current offset x plus the sprite x. Not text, test. but I'll have to decide. I guess I want to test, yeah, so 0, 1, 2, that's why. Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3. And the amount of change. So I want to test 3 different Y locations. Don't have a block in the way. So I'm going to actually have to have 3 of these. So if the level at that test Y test X doesn't equal do I want to test if it doesn't equal a wall and a floor, or do I want to test that it's free space or a coin? Do I want to test for the affirmative or the negative? It doesn't really matter either way, I guess. I'm going to test for the affirmative. So if it's free space, if I want to ask or, so if it's that, the or is the 2 pipes. So is it that, or is it a coin? If so, well, I need to test all 3, don't I? And only if, as in, I need to test position 1, position 2, and position 3. And only if all 3 sets pass, then I want to move into that square. So let's put if statements inside of if statements. 1, 2, 3. And for each of these, we'll do y plus 1, y plus 1, y plus 2, y plus 2. And if all of those pass, then I'm going to move to the right. Let's see what that does. Now, if I hold the up key, it won't fall. Good. Okay. It looks... Oh, so I need to... It lets me walk into it and then stop. So, yeah, I need to be testing 1 in that direction. So, plus 1. And now it should stop me. Stop me from walking into it. Yay. Okay. All right, that's moving left. The same should work for moving... Sorry, that's moving right. The same should work for moving left. I just need to minus 1 wherever I've got a plus 1 on my x's. Refresh that. And I need a way of jumping. I can't test the x. And I need... Oh, yeah. I don't remember doing a check to make sure I couldn't go off the edge, but looks like I have. Except not down the bottom. Okay. Okay, jumping. Now, jumping is a bit different because I want one jump to then, you know, and then I let go, but it keeps moving up for a certain number of moves and then it starts falling down. So I need a variable that kind of keeps track of like my jump moves. So I'm going to come up the top. Let's do another variable. Let jump equals 0. And then, so here, if jump is equal to 0, oops, all caps, then we'll make jump be how many squares do I want to be jumping each time? I mean, you can change this around yourself. I might just start with 7. 7 squares worth of jump. All right, and then what I'm going to do down here in my drawing, are we falling? Before we test if we're falling, we should test if we're jumping, because we might be in free. All right, because this is testing, am I standing on anything? But if I'm in free air heading up, then I don't want to be moving it down. So, are we jumping? So if jump is greater than 0, and then else, only if we're not jumping, then let's test if we're falling. So I'll move that into there. And if we are jumping, then we just need to test we're not going to bang our head on anything. So let jump test x is going to be sprite x plus offset x. Let jump test y be the sprite y and the offset y -1. So let's peek up and make sure that that's not something that we're going to collide our head into. So if the level at the jump test y, jump test x, if that's not floor of the platform above us, then let's move up. And reduce our number of jumps left. So that'll then happen for 7 times. So one jump will give us 7 squares worth of, maybe. Let's try this code. W. There we go. Now there's nothing stopping me moving sideways while I'm jumping. See if I can. Yes, I can move onto a platform. Can I? Okay, so it doesn't. There we go. I can squeeze my way through that, and it shouldn't let me jump there, which it doesn't. Good. But it does let me jump off the edge of the screen, which we don't want that, because then it crashed the game. So if that if jump test is still, if it's greater than or equal to 0, because otherwise we're trying to go above what the screen limits are capable of. Yeah, and while we're at it, let's make this one if full test y is less than the length of levels, so that we don't fall off the bottom. So now that will just yeah, so I mean, we'll have to test that we're colliding with spikes, but and it doesn't let me move left and right, because at the moment my left-right code only works if it's empty space or a coin. So that's probably good. If you're in a valley of spikes, you don't get to move around, you just die. Reset. And hopefully now it won't let me. Oh. There are some weird move through the gap in midair, moving left and right in the middle of a jump. All right, hopefully it won't let me move off the top of the screen now. Yeah, okay. Right, so it kind of hovers for a second when it realizes can fix that. Yeah, because if it's roof, then we can just set jump straight to 0. Actually, I'll set it to 1 because we're then going to subtract 1 off of it down here. So I can jump off of empty air at the moment. We don't want to allow that to happen. Okay, so but it shouldn't be happening. Should it? Jump. If jump is equal to 0, then set it to 7. So if we're in mid-jump, it shouldn't let me do another jump. Okay. If I'm falling, it's letting me jump. Okay. That's what's going on. So I want to only be able to jump if I'm touching the ground. So if jump is equal to 0, yeah, so instead of this, what I want to do is make sure I'm touching the ground. If level at y plus offset y plus 3 sprite x offset x, if that is equal to ground, then I can jump. That's better. It's not letting me get all the way up now. Okay. All right. Well, that's a long video. Hope you've got your sprite moving along. And let's do coins and spikes next, shall we? This is Mr. Baumgarten signing out.